I have some breaking news for you this morning. Maybe you might have seen this week, maybe not. But Northwestern University released the results of a 25-year study on memory and aging. Memory and aging. Who, as you age, thinks about memory? Or knows people who, like, as they've aged, have lost their memory, and how upsetting and disconcerting that is. And so a lot of people are studying and researching this. And Northwestern University did this 25-year study, and they're tracking people and waiting for them to die so they can actually open up their brains after they die. And these people donated their brains to do this. So that we can look at their lives. And they looked at 77 adults who were particularly strong in their memory in their later years. 77 adults, they called them super agers. I want to be a super ager, right? And what they studied when they opened up their brains, what their cortex had thinned more slowly than those who had lost more of their mental faculties, that their brains had generated twice as many neurons, especially neurons that are critical to memory formation. That makes sense, right? That if you have more neurons that help you that you would remember more. And this one is really interesting. 4 to 5 times more specialized neurons that are linked to social behavior, awareness, and social processing. They looked at they did this over the course of 25 years, so they're mapping their lives over time, and their diets were different. It wasn't like they all had the same diet. Their exercise regimens were not the same. Their lifestyles were considerably different. They were looking at what's the same and what's the difference. And the common denominator of our quote-unquote super agers was they were highly social people and reported strong interpersonal relationships during their lives. They were people who stayed connected to other people in relationships. Harvard had done, and this is not a new study, this is an old study, it ended back in like 2006, I think, did an 88-year-long study studying adult development and tracking they're not looking at the cellular structure of the brain and what's going on there. They were looking at the behaviors of people who they didn't call them that, but super agers in the same terms. 88 years of study was summarized in a single sentence, looking at the outcomes of health, happiness, longevity, hundreds of people, summarized in this single sentence. Good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period. 88 years of study, and this is what they came up with. Good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period. Warren Buffett is one of the 10 wealthiest people in the world. He's now retired. He's still making money hand over fist, but his net worth is between $140 and $145 billion. But what's $5 billion among friends, right? Says this: when you get to my age, you really measure success in life by how many of the people you want to have love you actually do love you. That's the ultimate test of how you've lived your life. The more you give away, the more you get. Now, I suspect that he didn't come to the end of his life and have that kind of love if he waited to find out until the end, that he had been living in relationships, and despite the fact that he made a lot of money. And I mean, having $140 billion does give you an opportunity to love people differently but nonetheless, it's still about the relationships, right? This is all stuff that we're discovering in the course of our lifetime. 2,000 years before Harvard and Northwestern University had done their studies and before Warren Buffett and other people have lived their lives, Jesus was asked this question. What's the most important thing in life? What is the most important thing about the life that we're living? And again, he didn't have research on brains or all these social science studies or anything like that. But he did have this one advantage. He did the research and development on the whole human experiment. And so, like, he was at the ground level of the formation of the thing. So I think that gives him maybe some unique perspective and expertise on the subject. Okay, Jesus, what's the most important thing in life? Jesus' response. The most important one is this. Hear, O Israel, he's quoting an Old Testament passage, Shema, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Here it is. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this. Love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. What Northwestern University said, what Harvard said, what Warren Buffett said, and what Jesus said thousands of years earlier is, it is all about relationships. Life is all about relationships. If you win at everything else in life, but you lose at relationships, you lose. And if you lose at everything else in life, but you win at relationships, you win. Jesus modeled the first commandment for us. We've looked at this the last couple of weeks in our series, Life According to Jesus. Right? How did he say life worked? How did he live his life? What did he do to help us find our way in life? I've come, Jesus says, that you may have life and have it to the full. He modeled the first commandment, loving God for us. If you keep my commands, he said, you will remain in my life just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his. So look at the way I love my Father. Do that. And when it comes to the second commandment, he personified relationships for us and what it looks like to love our neighbor as ourselves. He lived a life that transcended the boundaries of religious practices and social norms. And he met people where they were. Jesus touched lepers. You didn't do that. He dined with tax collectors. Jewish people didn't do that. He healed on the Sabbath. Not allowed. He talked with Samaritans. Not allowed. He welcomed children into his presence. Children were to be seen, well, maybe oftentimes not even seen, let alone heard. And Jesus said, let the little children come. He healed the Roman centurion's servant, right? He came for the Jewish people, but he extended his ministry beyond the people of his own community, of his own faith. He fraternized with women, the woman caught in adultery, the woman at the well, Mary Magdalene, the woman who was hemorrhaging, allowed her to touch him. He crossed boundaries when it came to political allegiances. One of his disciples was Matthew, who was a Roman sympathizer, worked for the Roman government, a Jewish person, working with Rome to steal from the Jewish people. And Simon, who was a zealot, who were working underground to try and overthrow the Roman government. Right? Opposite ends of the political spectrum. Jesus said, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And he did it. To lay down one life for his friends. And let me just say, he had a very, very generous definition of what he called a friend. He's talking to his disciples, and he's saying, lay down your life for his friends. But while we were yet sinners, Christ called us his friends. Christ died for us, not when we got our act together, not when we put it all put together or put good show. While we were yet sinners, Jesus says, I have come that you may have life and have it to the full. This is the life you're looking for. This is the life you're looking for. Whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me will save it. The things that you think that will bring you life will not. The things that I tell you will bring you life will require you to let go of those things, but you will find life in these things. John chapter 15, Jesus says, if you keep my commands, you remain in my Father's love, just as I've kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this, so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. You want complete joy? You want a life full of joy? My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Now, Jesus said, do unto others as they have done, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And apparently, like, love the Lord your God with all your mind, soul, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Like, sometimes we don't treat ourselves very well. That's kind of a low bar. It's like, we're changing the deal here. I'm giving you a new commandment. The new commandment is this: don't love other people the way you love them. Don't love other people the way you want to be loved. Love people the way I have loved them. Love them the way I have loved them. And he stakes his mission on this. Like, he's saying, this is how it works. This is the way I made life, and this is the way it's going to go or it won't go. By this, everyone will know. Jesus says to his disciples, to the people who are going to carry his mission forward into the future generations. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. Oh, and by the way, not just one another, and your enemies. Love them too. To you who are listening, anybody listening? You still with me, right? To you who are listening, I say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. This is where you go. If somebody hits you on the one cheek, turn the other cheek to them. If somebody steals your cloak, give them your shirt as well. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. Love your enemies. In my small group study, we came across this quote this week. I thought it was interesting, speaking to our content, by a person named Sky Jathani. I don't even know if that's correct, how I pronounce it, but this is what she says. The narcissist loves only himself. The nationalist loves only their tribe. The activist loves only their cause. The idealist loves only their thoughts. The humanist loves only their concept of humanity. The Christian loves the irritating person right in front of them. Love is a battlefield, right? Because there's nothing more important in life than relationships. You didn't need me to tell you that this morning, right? You look at your life, and if your relationships are not good, life is not going well. There's nothing more important than relationships. And there is nothing harder. Right? There's nothing harder than staying in good, healthy, functioning, life-giving, fruitful, joy-producing relationships. They're important and they're hard. The American Psychological Association says this: 6 in 10 Americans feel isolated, left out, or lacking companionship, often or much of the time. 60% of Americans say they are lonely. 60% of Americans are saying, I don't feel like I have enough relationships to meet my relational needs, and I'm suffering for it. 2 out of 5 people say TV is their primary source of company. 40% say the best friend I got is my television. Jesus says, love our enemies. And so many of us don't even have a friend to love well, right? And so can we just start there and then start working down the road on our enemies? Love is a battlefield. It makes sense, doesn't it? If the enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy, you just have come, you may have life and have it to the full, but the enemy says, I've come to steal, kill, and destroy. That he'd put relationships in the crosshair? That's exactly what he would go after to take away from us because that's what brings us life and joy and peace? Serving up all manner of chaos and confusion, of accusation, condemnation, sowing seeds of hatred and division. That's the battle. Relationships are the Strait of Hormuz of the spiritual battle. It's vital, it's valuable, and they're vulnerable, right? They're right in a pathway that is so easy to assault, to attack, to destruction. And then the battle. Paul says we have a very, very bad habit of fighting the wrong fight, of battling the wrong enemy. He says, public enemy number 1, our struggle is not against flesh and blood. Right? Our struggle is not against flesh and blood. That means that all the people that have flesh and blood, right? Our battle is not against our annoying neighbor. It's not against our bad boss. It's not against our mother-in-law. Right? It's not against our estranged brother or our ex. Our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, authorities, powers of this dark world, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Now, do those spiritual forces have a way of manipulating and kind of pushing the wrong buttons in all the right places, or all the right buttons in all the wrong places to disrupt? Yes. But the battle is with the enemy who wants to take life away from us and aims at our relationships to do it. Now, at this point in this message, there are a plethora of ways that I could go in terms of how I bring this into some kind of direction for our lives this week. I mean, we're talking about learning to love like Jesus loved, and like there's a whole like year-long sermon series in that. I want to go really into a single focus. Just there's a whole bunch of other stuff. And I want to talk about just this one thing. And the reason I'm doing it, in Matthew chapter 24, the disciples have come to Jesus. This is like really is at the kind of the end of his ministry. Things are winding down. It's actually in the last week. And they ask Jesus about the end of the story. Hey, Jesus, tell us what it's going to be like when this story, this world, this history, you've been talking about this coming kingdom, when the old kingdom passes away, when the new kingdom comes, what's it going to be like when things, as we come to the end of the story? And Jesus answered, watch out that no one deceives you, For many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah. They will deceive many. There will be wars and rumors of wars. There will be famines, earthquakes. Right? We see all that stuff's been happening for centuries. Persecution, still happening to this day. Hatred, martyrdom, division, all of these things. This is what it's going to be like as history moves forward. This stuff is going to happen, and it's going to keep happening, and it's going to, as we move towards the end of the age, more and more. And then he comes to this place, he talks about the casualties of the war. He said, many will turn away from the faith, betray and hate each other. The first casualty of people will lose their faith. And because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. People are going to lose their faith, and their love is going to grow cold. Daniel was a prophet from the Old Testament and was one of the people that had been taken into, as an exile, taken into and brought into the ways of the Babylonians and taught how to the ways of their culture, and became a leader. He was a prophet. And he actually gives us an intelligence briefing in his prophecy of the same thing that Jesus is talking about the end of the age. And in his intelligence briefing, he says the enemy's ploy, the plan, the way that he's going to work this against us is to oppress the saints. He is hundreds of years before this, before Jesus says this, Daniel tells us the enemy's ploy is going to be to oppress the saints, or as another version says, it's going to be to wear them down. He's going to oppress us, wear us down to the point where we just get too tired to fight anymore. Too tired to fight for love, too tired to fight for relationships, worn out. Psychologists have named this heart growing cold, weariness of compassion. They call it compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue. And what they've learned is that compassion fatigue rewires our brains for how we relate to other people. Researchers call it depersonalization. So that we stop seeing people as people and start seeing them as problems to manage. We stop seeing people as people and start seeing them as problems to manage. It was, I think, somewhere in 2017 or 2018, I was doing this training, going through this training plan, and I actually learned this about compassion fatigue. And there was a questionnaire that you could use to determine if you had compassion fatigue. And I remember doing the questionnaire and going through, and it's like, nope, I don't have that. And thinking, just reading about it and learning, it's like, and I'm really, really glad I don't have that. Like, that would really stink to start to see people as problems that you have to solve and, trying to manage and not as human beings that you love. And the reason you do anything for them is because you love them, not because you're trying to fix them. And then, wow, that's got to be rough. And it was, I think, somewhere in the midst of kind of the past the early days of the pandemic and in the middle of it. And I remember somebody asked me to do something. And like everything inside of me was just annoyed. And it wasn't a big thing. It wasn't a big thing, but I was just like, I didn't see a person. I saw something else that needed to be done, and I just didn't want to do it. and a few more things, and few more things. If you would ask me, I still love the people, but there was this barrier that had been created. I had become a victim of what psychologists, it's like this really nice, isn't it, euphemism of compassion fatigue. Got just really, really tired of being nice to people. Jesus called it a cold heart. Sounds a little rough around the edges that way, doesn't it? Love that has grown cold. And when the love of most has grown cold, Jesus says, this is how he wraps this up. He's like, so what you need to do, when people's love is growing cold, this is what you need to do. The one who stands firm to the end will be saved. The one who stands firm. The one whose love is tough. Now, James Dobson, psychologist, Christian leader, coined the term, and author coined the term love, tough love. Love must be tough. And when he coined that term, he was talking about love in the context of relationships that are strained because of enabling behavior, because of oftentimes children who are betraying their families or rebelling against them, addicts who are using and abusing the people around them, and then people who love them, who because they love them enable their behavior. And so he writes about this idea of you don't stop loving them, but your love has to be tough. You have to stop saying yes. You have to start doing hard things in order to love them in a way that actually helps them, not continues to hurt them. The way that I'm using the word tough love that's a part of it, but more than that, a love that keeps loving. A love that keeps loving even when it doesn't feel like loving anymore. Tough love. Love that bears with other people when they're unbearable. Love that doesn't quit. Love that doesn't anger easily. Love that doesn't keep a record of wrongs. Love that forgives. And just for the record, I'd not make up that list like for your pleasure. Like all those are quotes from Scripture. Love that bears with other people. Love that doesn't anger easily. Love that doesn't quit. Love that doesn't keep a record of wrong. Love that forgives. How do we love like that? How do we grow in that kind of love? The first step is to remember that we're loved. To lean in to the love that God has for us. John writes, we know what real love is because Jesus gave up his life for us. John talks, we are anything we do in love is because we've been loved so that we can love. It's that whole idea of blessed to be a blessing. We have to receive it before we have it to give. Lean into the fact that we are profoundly loved. Jesus was at Simon the Pharisee's house, and while he was there, he was sitting at the table, and a sinful woman came in and washed his feet with her tears and dried them with her hair and then anointed them with perfume, his feet. And Simon the Pharisee was appalled that all this was happening at his table. And he was appalled because Jesus is a prophet. He would know that this is a sinful woman. He would not allow her to do this. And he objects to Jesus. And Jesus says, you know what, Simon, I came here. You didn't wash my feet. You didn't anoint my head. You didn't do any of the customary things that a person would do when they welcome a guest into our home. And this woman has washed my feet with her tears, dried them with her hair. And he sums it up this way. I tell you, her sins, and they are many. He's not denying that she was a sinful woman. Her sins have been forgiven. So she has shown me much love. But a person who has forgiven little shows only little love. Forgiven much, she loved much. Forgiven little, we love little. We used to sing this song in church called Count Your Many Blessings. Count your many blessings. Name them one by one. Count your many blessings. See what God has done. Anybody? Right? Thank you. Count your blessings. Maybe there's a point in time where we need to count our sins again. Now, I know Jesus has removed them from us as far as the east is from the west, washed them clean. But if we forget how much we've been forgiven, maybe we lose sight of how much we've been loved. Jesus loved us. How great is the love the Father has lavished on us, that is what we should be called, the children of God, and that is what we are. Lean into the love. It's the well from which we love other people. The second thing is, when I was in one of my first backpacking trips, we went out into, it was in the wilderness in Colorado. And I went with high schoolers who were grossly unprepared for the trip. We tried, but they just did not know what they were getting into. And we got out there, and we're going above tree line, 10,000 feet, and they are just struggling. And our trip leaders on that trip, they coined the term. They didn't make it up. It's the first time I had ever heard it, and they use it in 1,000 different ways. They coined it cowboy up. Cowboy up, right? You just got to suck it up. This is hard. I'm sorry. There's only one way on this trip. It's up the mountain. There is no back. You have to go forward. Cowboy up. So I'm coining for you. Sometimes we just got to Jesus up. We just got to Jesus up. We need some grit to push through. It's hard. Yep, it is hard to love some people sometimes. Maybe it's hard to love all people sometimes. Jesus up. Consider him, Hebrews says, who endured such opposition from sinners. Consider what he did. Consider the track that he walked so that you will not grow weary and lose heart, so that your love will not grow cold. Jesus up. Paul says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest of righteousness if we do not give up. Stand firm. Don't grow weary. Don't give up. Lean in, Jesus up. And step out. Dear children, let's not merely say that we love each other. Let us show the truth by our actions. This is how we know we belong to the truth and how we set our hearts at rest in his presence. By loving people with our actions, by stepping out because we're Jesusing them up and doing hard things, maybe even when we don't feel like it, maybe especially when we don't feel like it. Because Jesus loved us and calls us to love others. I've known a number of people who a few people who have lamented to me, in my relationships, I always take the initiative. It's like I feel like if I didn't take the first step, if I didn't make the phone call, if I didn't reach out to the person we wouldn't be friends because they never respond to me. They never initiate. And I read this article about that feeling that some people have. And they made this connection, and it kind of made sense to me, and I'm thinking it might be true. If it wasn't for the people who were those people who took the initiative in relationships, none of us might have any friends. Right? Because it's those people who keep relationships going, and they're the people who reach out to their friends and keep their friends, and then they have gatherings and they invite all their other friends, and so we make friends with their friends because we're there with their friends because they brought us all together. So if you are that person who always has to initiate to keep relationships going, I for one just want to say thank you. And keep it up. Because I might not have any friends if it weren't for you. But researchers are spending millions and millions of dollars to find a cure for memory loss. And all we really need to do is go out and make a friend. Go out and initiate a relationship. When I was young in my life, I was often lonely and felt like I didn't have friends. And it wasn't until I was a young adult that I realized that I actually did have friends. I was lonely because I didn't have the friends that I wanted. I wanted the cool friends, and I had the nerd friends. I wanted the sports friends, and I had the band friends. And they were great friends. And I think we still do that sometimes, right? There are people around that are, oh, here we go. 60% of Americans are lonely. 60% of Americans are waiting for somebody to step out and initiate a relationship, a connection, a dinner, a dessert, a coffee date, a walk with them. Right? It's a pretty big target to hit. Lean in. Jesus up and step out. Lord, I pray with gratitude and thanksgiving that you loved us and that you love us. You made us for relationships, and life in a broken world makes it hard. But you came to save us. You came to save us from our sin that separates us from you and from each other, and the shame that locks us down, and the pain that locks us in. You came to rescue us from all of that, to restore a relationship between us and our Heavenly Father, and to reconcile relationships then with our family and our friends and our neighbors and even our enemies. You continue to stake your mission on your disciples, loving other people. So remind us first of just how deeply, profoundly we are loved. And then toughen our skin. Give us some grit to Jesus up and the courage to step out this week, to reach out to someone who's lonely, to someone we're at odds with and a relationship is struggling or broken because we just didn't do the hard work. I pray in Jesus' name.